Hey Canucks fans, do the Canucks currently have a true rival? I'm Clay Emo, I'm at Canuck Clay on Twitter, I'm at Clay Emo on Instagram, I'm the founder of the GLCPC, the Good Looking Canucks Positivity Club, and this is my Canucks take all in one take. It's Clay's Canucks commentary for Thursday, January the 2nd. And once again, I want to thank you for reaching out, for your prayers, for your messages, your thoughts, positive vibes, as my daughter Kayla recovered at home today from her emergency removal of her appendix yesterday, New Year's Day. What a great way to usher in the new year and the new decade. But yes, I stayed at home with her today, did some work from home, and was able to stay with her and make sure she's on the mend, and she is recovering nicely. So once again, thank you to all of you who have been checking in or been asking me about her status. So far, so good. All right, tonight is the Vancouver Canucks hosting the Chicago Blackhawks at Rogers Arena. Not going to the game tonight. We were able to sell the tickets, but we'll be watching from home. And the Canucks are trying to build on their 5-game win streak, a 5-game win streak that has seen them vault into a playoff position. They're now battling second and third place in the Pacific Division. And yeah, 5 straight and trying to make it 6. They got 2 games at home tonight against Chicago, and then Saturday hosting the Rangers Saturday afternoon before they go out on the road for about a week and a half. And then actually, before I talk about what I was going to talk about really quickly about the lineup tonight, no changes from the win in Calgary, except that it'll be Jacob Markstrom in net, taking over from Thatcher Demko. So you have Jacob Markstrom in net, then you have D pairings of Edler, Stetcher, Hughes, Tanev, Fantenberg, and Myers, and then the same 12 forwards. You got your Lotta line, Pettersson, Besser, Miller, second line of Horvat with Pearson and playing with Louis Eriksson. Third line are Gaudette, Virtanen, Roussel. Fourth line, Bigo, Schaller, and Mott. So that's how the Canucks will line up. Again, the same 18 skaters and simply a switch in the nets. Back to Jacob Markstrom for tonight's game. Now, what I wanted to talk about, got so excited to talk about, given that we're playing against the Chicago Blackhawks, and yes, it's not the same storied rivalry as it was when the last decade started, right? The Canucks lost to the Blackhawks in the 2009 playoffs, the 2010 playoffs, then we vanquished them in the 2011 playoffs. We all know, the Slaying the Dragon and all that. Probably the best memory of the last decade for the Canucks. Maybe in Canucks franchise history, given that we haven't won a Stanley Cup yet, although we've come so close, as you guys know, which I'll get to in a second. So I think no one would argue that the Chicago Blackhawks were the Vancouver Canucks' main rival at the turn of the last decade. But how about now? And you look back at the last decade, yeah, it was the Blackhawks 2009, 2010, 2011. Then it was the Boston Bruins by default because it was such a hated and such a spirited series, that finals. And then there was the January 2012 game, Cody Hodgson bar down. But really after that, there hasn't been enough between the Canucks and the Bruins to say that we are true rivals. Sure, we hate them because they beat us and we don't like Brad Marchand. But really, I don't think you could make a good argument that say the Canucks and Bruins are true rivals. Yes, they had one heated playoff series. It happened to be the Stanley Cup Finals. And I guess that's the real reason why it's tough to say that Canucks have a true bona fide rival right now, is because rivalries usually are born from the playoffs. And the Canucks have only been in the playoffs a few times. In fact, they haven't been in the playoffs the last 5 seasons, right? The last time we were in there was the spring of 2015, and that was a first-round loss to Calgary. So if you look at playoff rivalries, yes, we had Chicago 2009-10, they beat us. 11, we beat Chicago, and we beat Nashville on our way to San Jose, of course. So we beat Chicago, Nashville, San Jose on our way to Boston. But are those teams actual rivals? Then 2012, we lost to LA. 2013, we lost to San Jose. Would you call those teams rivals? I don't know. I don't think so. 2014, we didn't make the playoffs. Then 2015, we made the playoffs. We lost to Calgary. And I'll make an argument why I think if we had to pick one, they are our rival right now. And then nothing. No playoffs, 16, 17, 18, 19. And hopefully you're trying to change that in 2020. So who is the Canucks' biggest rival right now? I'm going to offer Toronto, although I don't think they are. I think there's a lot of comparisons. The Maple Leafs are maybe where we want the Canucks to be in 2 or 3 seasons. And there's always the whole love-hate relationship, i.e. we love to hate them when they come here and all the Maple Leafs fans. But I think that's a whole national Vancouver, Toronto, East Coast, West Coast thing, although Toronto's not technically on the East Coast. But you know what I mean? But I don't think there's a true rivalry between the teams on the ice. Like, the games aren't overly ugly, they aren't overly chippy, and it's maybe because we only see them twice a year. So, and I can't think of another Eastern Conference team. Boston, like I said, that's long gone. Toronto, Montreal, it's maybe the fans and the cities more than it is the actual hockey teams. And I can't think, like Washington, Tampa, Florida, maybe Florida because of Mike Matheson, and the history of trading between the two teams, but I still wouldn't even argue that Florida is a rival. So I don't think there's anyone that's a true rival of the Canucks in the Eastern Conference. Then you look at the West. In the Central, I don't think you can argue that any of those teams are in the Central are true rivals of the Canucks. You know, as much I do like a couple of the teams there. I like Winnipeg. I like Colorado. But you know, Nashville. But are they true rivals? I don't think so. So then you go to the Pacific Division, and you could knock off the three California teams because they simply aren't as good as they used to be, and there really isn't any heated games between Vancouver and any of those three teams. Then I think you could take away Arizona, although Martin Hansel used to injure all of our players. I don't think they're a true rival yet. They're just kind of a nondescript team. And then the Vegas Golden Knights, sure, we barely beat them. We only beat them in late December, but we always have trouble with them. But I still wouldn't argue they're a true rival. So that just leaves Edmonton and Calgary. Now, Edmonton, they have McDavid, Draisaitl, and not a lot much else. And they're showing that as they continue to drop in the standings, although they're fighting with the Canucks for third and fourth right now, third, fourth, and fifth. But I still don't consider even the Oilers the biggest rival for the Canucks. So, all to say, if I had to pick one team, and only if I had to pick one team, I don't think I'm stretching, but I do think that the one team I would pick would be the Calgary Flames. There's history between the two teams, goes back to the playoffs in the late 80s, then throughout the 90s and 2000s a little bit, and then recently, the Calgary Flames are the one team that knocked us out of the playoffs the last time we were there, 2015. That was also, no, the year before, in January 2014, was the year that Bob Hartley started all his goons and instigated a line brawl with the Vancouver Canucks, and that led to John Tortorella going into the dressing room corridor to try and get after Hartley. And we've seen that famous scene from Hockey Night in Canada, and that really led to the downfall of the Canucks season. You got to remember, at that time, they were actually fighting for a playoff position. Then Tortorella got suspended. Mike Sullivan came behind the bench. We only, I think, won 2 of the next 8 or 9 or 10 games, and then it sent us on a tailspin, and then John Tortorella was fired at the end of the season. So, it really set that season on a different course, but I think for that reason, I would say that the Calgary Flames are our biggest rival. Geographically, they are close by, right? Them and Edmonton are the closest teams to us right now until Seattle comes in. I'll get to that in a second. So it's Calgary. They're one of the closest teams. They're in our division. We have playoff history. We have regular season history with them. And there's a lot of players on that team that I don't like. Matthew Tkachuk, I'd love to have him on our team, but I still don't like playing against them. You know, I'm not a fan of Johnny Gaudreau. I'm not a fan really of Monahan and Bennett. And it's partially because I think they're good players and you always don't like playing against good players, but partially like I just don't like them for whatever reason. Maybe I should give them more of a chance. No, I don't have to give them more of a chance. I like Giordano. Calgary has a really deep blue line, you know, but so for all those reasons, I'm going to say that the Calgary Flames are likely our biggest rival right now. For those reasons: geography, playoff history, regular season history, and the fact that we're battling with them right now for second, third, fourth in the Pacific Division. So that's my pick. Tell me what you think. Leave a comment below if you're with me. If you don't like my reasons, give me a like on this video if you agree with the Calgary thing, or if I mentioned a team that you would offer up as our biggest rival for the Canucks right now, whether that's Edmonton or Toronto or Boston or Chicago. But I do think it's the Calgary Flames for all the reasons that I listed. Lastly, maybe it's Seattle. Seattle is going to have their expansion draft in June 2021 and then come into the league that fall. So we're less than 2 years away from the Seattle joining, the Seattle franchise. And maybe that is the team that's ultimately going to be our rival, because geographically, they'll be the closest to us, a 2.5-hour drive, depending if you have Nexus or not. So 2.5-hour drive. And then who knows, if they end up taking one of our really good players somehow in the expansion draft, that might even add some more fuel to the fire. So right now, I'm going to say the Calgary Flames are the Vancouver Canucks' biggest rival, but in 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons down the road, maybe it becomes the Seattle franchise, or if the Canucks start making the playoffs more regularly, it might be a team from our Pacific Division, a different team that we might have 1 or 2 consecutive playoff series against, or maybe it only takes one nasty playoff series, and then that team becomes our rival. So let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with me that it's Calgary? Do you think it's another Pacific Division team like Edmonton? Do you think it's one of the Central Division teams, or maybe one of the Canadian teams back east from the Eastern Conference? Leave a comment below. I'd love to know who you think is the Canucks' biggest rival right now, or is it simply we don't have any rivals? And maybe did I kind of gloss over Florida too quickly because of the Mike Matheson thing last season with Pettersson, or was that just a one-off as well? Leave a comment. I'd love to know what you think. Subscribe if you like to. Like this video if you like to. Enjoy the game tonight. It's Vancouver, it's Chicago, the rival of 10 years ago, and the Blackhawks aren't too far behind us in the standings, but the Canucks need to worry about them by beating them, and then the Canucks need to keep focused on the teams that are above them so they can stay in this playoff position, stay in this playoff race. And remember, we are within shouting distance of first place. Lastly, don't forget that if the Canucks win tonight and Vegas does not win, they either get 0 points for a regulation loss or 1 point for an extra time loss. Then by points percentage, Travis Green will be the one coaching the Pacific Division All-Stars in the All-Star game later this month in St. Louis. So remember, the Canucks got to win, and then Vegas cannot. The other way that they can get in, if the Canucks get 1 point and Vegas gets 0. So basically, the Canucks need to outpoint the Vegas Golden Knights by 1, and then Travis Green will be coaching the Pacific Division All-Star team later this month in St. Louis. Leave a comment below if you think that's going to happen or not, and then yeah, give this video a like if you would like Travis Green to be there in the Pacific Division, in the All-Star game representing the Vancouver Canucks and our division. All right, there we go. Now I'm done for sure. Enjoy the game tonight. I'll be checking in with some intermission reflections and then, of course, a post-game vlog as well. God bless. Go Canucks, go.